Welcome, everybody. I am the Pre-Dr. Bennett, and today we are going to be learning about the Happy American. Or are they happy? I don't know. This is Cars from Khan Academy. And once again, these passages are a little bit weird, but this is the second practice passage. It's not necessarily the second passage in the critical analysis and reasoning skills practice question set, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 skill learning things, which I totally recommend. Go do worked examples, learning about reasoning beyond and within the text, foundations of comprehension, all that. But I am just starting on the practice problems. I want to get through those passages, really show you guys how I think through it, and maybe that's going to help you. So the Happy American, the second practice passage. Once again, I like to read the first sentence and then go down to the first question just to get an overall idea of maybe where this whole thing is going. So the first sentence: Americans are a positive people. This is their reputation as well as their self-image. In the well-worn stereotype, they are upbeat, cheerful, and optimistic. So right off the bat, no sense of anything else besides, wow, Americans are awesome. The first question says, according to the passage, positive feelings are. So once again, at this point, I had no idea what this whole passage was kind of telling me. Positive feelings are, I can't go through any of those and say whether or not they make any sense. So I can kind of look at Hereditary and say, probably not. But once again, that's assuming things. So I read the first paragraph and it started to talk about, so I did read the entire passage and went back to the question, realized that the answer probably lies in the first paragraph where they talk about how, here, in addition, recent studies show that happy feelings flit easily. What does flit mean? Does anyone know what flit means? Tweet me at the Twitter I don't have if you know. That feelings flit easily through social networks, so that one person's good fortune can brighten the day, even for only distantly connected others. So that paragraph really talked about, it made me look at the answer choices once again. I saw the answer choice contagious and thought, yeah, that makes sense. I looked at universal and no, that's not true. They're specifically talking about why is it weird that Americans seem to have these positive feelings and other people don't. So universal, no, it's saying, if anything, that people are different across the world. Hereditary, it does not talk about that at all. So I was right from the beginning. And then ephemeral. I'm going to be honest, I don't exactly know what ephemeral means. I think it means I have no idea. So I just thought, they didn't say the word ephemeral in there. And contagious makes sense because they did talk about that. So I picked it. Sure enough, it was right. Okay, next question. Suppose that economists do start using happiness instead of the gross national product as a measure of an economy's success. Information presented in the passage would predict which of the following. All right, people, I'm going to need you to go back to childhood and remember what Squidward told SpongeBob when he opened the 5-star restaurant. You need to clear your mind of everything you thought you knew before the MCAT and go into it without knowing about anything that's not in this passage. So, as you could imagine, I got this question wrong because I came into it with prior knowledge and I didn't stick to what was explicitly mentioned in the passage. So, as I was going through these questions, so the question once again, suppose that economists do start using happiness instead of the gross national product as a measure of an economy's success. Information presented in the passage, they got me right there, presented in the passage would predict which of the following. So the first answer choice, the transition would be fraught with difficulty. That one makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it would be fraught with difficulty. They talked about how they thought Americans were the happiest, but then they tried one metric of figuring out who is the happiness, and Americans plummeted. We were way down. I think we're 23rd or something. And then they talked about, how the confusion of what is positive feeling or anything like that. So yeah, I could totally imagine, based on what they said in the paragraph or the passage, that it would be fraught with difficulty. Okay, 2, the gross national product of the United States would appear to decrease. Okay, so this one is one that I used my prior knowledge on, and this answer choice made me get this whole thing wrong. So it does not talk about the actual gross national product of the United States. It might say somewhere in here that the United States is economically successful. Okay, so okay, so in the, what is this, 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, it does say that a recent meta-analysis of over 100 studies self-reported happiness worldwide found Americans ranking only 23rd. And then, where is it? I'm sorry I didn't prep this better for you people. Okay, so they really don't talk about America's actual gross national product economy that much. So yeah, that was a stupid mistake of mine. Don't make that mistake, people. Okay, the third answer choice. The economy of the United States will be seen as relatively less successful than today's. Oh, my bad. I did not pick that one. I picked this one. Because it made sense. I picked 1 and 3 as my choice. So the economy of the United States will be seen as relatively less successful than today's. Yeah, I screwed up this whole episode, people. My bad. Forget everything I just said. This was the one that I thought, because I know, oh yeah, if we're switching from GNP, which, and here's my background knowledge, which I know the United States has a high GNP, then if we switch to happiness, we would go down. Our economy, not our GNP, our economy, which we're now measuring by happiness, would be less successful than today's. However, they don't tell you the success of today's United States economy based on gross national product. Therefore, you can't choose that. And the answer choice 1 and 3 only is very, very much incorrect. So the answer choice correct here was 1 only. All right, and this is a pretty short cars. I don't know why Khan does it. Like the last one was 4 and this one is 3 questions. Maybe they'll get bigger as we go on. The last question: what best represents the author's explanation for why Americans can be so surpassingly positive in self-image and stereotype without being the world's happiest and best off people? So with this one, I went back to, I think it was somewhere near the beginning of this. Well, they talked about, okay, so they talked about antidepressants. They talked about how positive thinking, that was it. And that's the last 1 or 2 paragraphs. So they talked about positive thinking. They talked about how you stay optimistic, that if you just stay optimistic, if you just keep telling yourself everything's gonna be okay, the grass is greener, all that kind of stuff, that you see silver. Look, here it is. At the end of this, the second to last paragraph, they have the quote: "Things are pretty good right now, at least if you're willing to see silver linings. Make lemonade out of lemons, etc. And things are going to get a whole lot better." So that's a good summary of how they're defining Americans and how Americans are so positive. Also, if you look at the quote in the question, which is so surpassingly positive in self-image and stereotype, you can see that that is the first bit of the second to last paragraph. And if you just kept going in that paragraph, it explained perfectly that the answer choice. So let's go through these answers. The first one I'm looking at: Americans tend to have high rates of depression. They didn't exactly say that. They talked about the purchase of antidepressants, but they didn't say that. And that's also really specific, so I kind of wrote that one out immediately. Stereotypes tend to lead to unwarranted generalizations. That is so out of the scope here. Yeah, that one was completely off. Okay, next one. Being well off is not the same as being happy. You could assume that. You could use all the information given and say, well, yeah, if Americans have so much money, but they're not happy, then being well off isn't the same as being happy. But that's not what they're asking. They're asking what best represents the author's explanation for why Americans can be so surpassingly positive, blah, blah, blah. So Americans' positivity is not a true reflection of their affect. This one is absolutely correct. So what they're explaining at the end of that second to last paragraph, they say that One thing an American could say is, well, things are pretty good right now. At least if you're willing to see the silver linings, make lemonade out of lemons, etc. I guess someone wouldn't say etc. And things are going to get a whole lot better. Like if something bad happens to you, you don't just get gloomy, you just get happy. So he's saying that's what Americans do. Even if I'm really sad as an American, I'm still going to say like, well, I'm optimistic about what could happen, even though I'm really sad right now. That also kind of plays into the complexity that they talked about earlier for how do you measure happiness? Because Americans specifically are quite a anomaly, I guess. I wouldn't think so, but at least that's kind of what I gathered from this. All right, strong work, gang.